Hi, I'm Tilani. I'm one of the trustees and organizers of Lanka Comic Con. What makes me a geek? I guess I like stuff which is considered geeky. Like I love comic books. I've loved them since I was a kid. And then just like kept reading comics ever since. I don't know. I wandered into geekdom by accident. I didn't set out to be a geek.
Because I can obsess over movies, anime and books and anything I obsess with. I buy stuff, I collect stuff, and I then find people who are also interested in the same subjects, and that makes me a geek.
I've been a geek all my life. I mean, my earliest memories are drawing like Star Wars spaceships and stuff. But what really transformed it for me was when I went to the US for college, my very first day on campus, I ended up joining a bunch of guys who are like my lifelong friends today as well. And we were watching a movie outside this building projected on a bed sheet. Right? We were sitting in the grass, and there's all kinds of weird bugs out there, like bugs I've never seen before. There's a new kid from Asia dumped over here. And the movie we watched was called The Princess Bride, right? The Princess Bride is a proper all-American geek movie. It's a part of your geek education. And that's when I became more of an American geek. And that's what I brought to the equation over here.
People ask me, what makes me a geek? What doesn't make me a geek? I mean, I've been like a fan of so many things, be it cars, movies, comics. I collect action figures, I collect die-cast cars. I love doing geek fan art. I do cosplays. So yeah, I guess all those stuff as a collective makes me a geek.
Fictional characters have, a certain appeal. They have all these qualities that we would like to have in real life, and because of them we are inspired. It inspires us a lot.
Being a geek is something that comes out of passion, in my opinion. It's the actions we do, the hobbies we like, that makes you be attracted towards the geek culture. In my instance, more from the comics, Marvel, DC aspect, I am attracted more towards the Japanese anime and manga.
I think a geek is anybody who is passionate about something. I mean, if I were to ask, and it doesn't have to be pop culture, so you can geek out on technology, you can geek out on bicycles, motorcycles, cars. So what makes me a geek, I suppose, would be the fact that I might be considered by my friends or somebody I've met for the first time to be perhaps a subject matter expert in one or more verticals of interest, if you will. So it doesn't have to be restrictive, it could be anything. So if you're a subject matter expert, you're a geek.
First of all, I think being a geek just means having an interest that you're passionate about, and I truly believe you can be a geek about just about anything. For me, that's comics, movies, and even music. If you come and tell me that you think Kendrick Lamar is not the greatest rapper of all time, I'll probably try to disagree with you and have a debate with you. So yeah, that's what a geek means to me, and that's why I'm a geek.
So I guess what makes me a geek is just the many different things I'm passionate about, whether it's video games or comics or movies or TV. It's this urge to watch or consume all these different forms of pop culture. It's this kind of burning urge to enjoy the different forms of entertainment and characters that are so rich that we get these days, whether it's on the silver screen or in books.
I think everyone is a geek in their own way. If you have a love for something, you can be even a car geek or a motorbike geek, and as well as a comic book geek or anything.
Well, I like drawing. I like drawing comic strips, and part of my job is I do illustrations for brands and different purposes. I really got into, I like Ninja Turtles and I like Marvel and DC as well. I do collect comics, but very select ones. So being a part of the first few geek meets, yeah, it all went forward from there. It's been a good ride.
I first got into cosplay in 2015. I heard about Lanka Con happening in Sri Lanka, and I was so excited because I'm a huge movie and TV fanatic, and when I found out that we were going to have a Comic Con here, I was so excited.
As I see, cosplaying is a tribute you pay to characters that are like a big part of you. I like to cosplay mainly because cosplaying gives you the opportunity to live a character's life that you would always admire to be.
I saw the Facebook fan page for Dragon Age post this girl dressed up as Morrigan, and I was like, I was like blown away when I saw that cosplay. It was like the real life Morrigan. I was like, curious about this whole cosplay business, like why do people do it, like what's the how do people get into this, like how do they build their costumes, what's this whole thing with Comic Cons about. So I just did a bit of research. I was following Mall Cosplay, Jessica Negri, Liz Brakely, all of them avidly from a few years back, and I was a huge fan of their work.
Cosplay is a relatively new concept for me, but one which I have embraced a lot more than actually reading or being a Potterhead or any other aspect of my geeky life.
Especially, I'm a person who likes acting and dressing up, so I found it very fascinating when I saw Cosplayers at the 2015 one. So in 2016 I started, and yeah, from there on I'm still cosplaying and will be cosplaying.
I had this passion when I was a kid that I wanted a bow, like a real deal bow, and it took me 15 tries and 6 years to make it. 15 tries and 6 years. But I didn't stop. I just kept on doing it until, now I have a bow at my house. I don't know what to do with it, but it's there. So that's the thing. Just keep trying. That's it.
I had crippling anxiety at the time, and I wasn't as open as I am now. I would say cosplay helped me in that regard. It was a new experience to me. I hadn't felt that reception ever to anything I've done. So many people coming up to me, taking photos with me, and it felt special. It opened me up to a community of people who share the same passion as me, and I felt this is where I belong.
I started as I used to just do my own makeup, which is like day-to-day makeup, bridal makeup, stuff like that, which is, you normally use brands of makeup and do it. But what happened was when I started getting inquired about cosplay from cosplayers, they asked whether they could get face and body paint and latex and stuff like that.
To cosplay, people think it costs a lot of money and it takes, a whole makeup artist, but it's very simple. You can do it by yourself. Keep trying. If you're not the one to keep trying, just for fun. It's just plainly for fun and passion.
I've watched so much videos that I started watching SFX tutorials, and I loved it. Like it was so cool how they would transform themselves from normal humans to just like these amazing creatures, and I always wished I could do it, And then one day I was just like, let's give it a try. So I gave it a try, and I sent a picture to a bunch of my friends, and they were like, this is pretty good for your first time.
Well, role-playing games are basically impromptu theater, right? Like when you have a play, you've got the playwright's written the script, and the actors do what they're supposed to do, and they act it out. In a role-playing game, the playwright has written the setting. The actors know what the intentions and hopes and dreams are of the characters, and no one knows how it's going to end.
If you think about Dungeons and Dragons, that was one of my main interests. But I have been studying the lore and the stories about creatures and characters related to that for a while, from my childhood. Until I ran into the members of the Geek Club of Sri Lanka, I didn't really know that was a huge community of people that had similar interest at a similar level. After I participated as a gamer in many of these games, I started running games as a game master in my own. It has a lot to do with your imagination and creativity. It's when you are playing a role-playing tabletop game, you have to imagine a character and stay in that character for the duration of the game. It gives players players a specific kind of freedom to explore their, character quirks or whatnot.
So what I really like about Dungeons and Dragons is actually the nature of the story. If you take a book or a movie, your story is linear. It has a clear beginning, it has a clear middle, it has a clear end, and you're basically just along for the ride. With Dungeons and Dragons, the whole thing, actually with RPGs and with tabletop games, that entire dynamic changes. Because we as players, the choices that we make, the dungeon master sitting at the end of the table has to adjust to us. So it's a very organic, it's a very cooperative experience. And this level of storytelling you won't find in anything else. It's a social experience. And it's not just the dungeon master writing the story, it's the players themselves telling the story. So it's 12 people coming together to participate in this storytelling exercise with this common framework. You might have dragons, you might have science fiction overlords, but on this common framework, it's 12 people writing a story together.
A cool thing about role-playing games is that it teaches people to work as teams, and it gets them used to being friends. So the people you role-play with will be the people you will start companies with, they'll be the people you start events with, they'll be people who do many other things. And my closest friends have always been, well, some of my closest friends have always been people I role-play with.
Okay, LARP stands for live action role play, where you're assigned, it's much like D&D, except you're technically playing for real, and the rules are totally adapted from D&D. It helps me get out of my headspace, it puts me in a different character, and these days, since everybody's learned to keep score, I'm actually a playing character as well.
I've heard of it, but I've never thought there was Lopping Guild in Sri Lanka. I always thought of it as an American, European thing where they get to fight with real armor. So that sort of like taught me, always, even in a real battle, always look around you because you don't know from where you're going to get hit.
I was always into something like sword fighting. In grade 2, for example, I started fighting on rulers with other kids. I was good. I was the best ruler fighter in class, but probably the most memorable was in Goal Fort. It started raining, and at the same time it was a sunset time, so it was very, very cinematic, I say. It was 2-on-2 duel with orange light shining at us, with sun setting down into the sea. In the same time, while heavy rain was pouring at us. That was amazing.
I can't recall what got me into collecting as a child, but that bite has always been there, or the bug rather. So this whole hoarding mentality, you hoard something. There was even a time when I was collecting those plastic phone cards because I found them really cool looking. I guess I've always been a hoarder. What probably got me back into collecting is just conversations with like-minded people. I mean, in the beginning, nobody really talked about it.
Well, collecting was more of a nostalgic thing. When I was a kid, I had a lot of Hot Wheels and Matchbox cars. But then lately, I got into it again, mainly because, it felt good, collecting at the time. So thought, why not? I ended up collecting model cars of all scales. So from the little Hot Wheels to like the major 1:18 scale.
So if you want to collect, you have to think about what it is about collecting that appeals to you. You see something that you like in it, that's something that speaks to you personally. It has to be if you don't have some sort of personal connection or investment in it, you're not going to really appreciate the value. So if my friend asks me, is this worth it? Is that worth it? Then my first question is, you have to think about if it's worth it to you.
Because it's a community, you see, and if we don't volunteer to help out the community, I don't think that it's ever going to grow. So when people see the members who are already part of the community volunteering, then they also are interested in coming and helping in order for us to become bigger and bigger every year. So being a volunteer is part of the growth process for Lanka Comic Con and for the Geek Club.
I want to work for this organization because it's a platform for all the geeks to like come together and do what they love. So I enjoy helping that. So yeah, that's why I come every year.
Actually, it's really nice to see how passionate the cosplayers and mostly the cosplayers. When I see the cosplayers, I feel kind of proud, and to see that the Sri Lankan community also has this interest in the geek culture. The first time I went there also, I was really shocked to see the amount of cosplayers who came and the effort that they put into the cosplaying. So yeah, it makes it all worth it.
Yeah, it is really fun to volunteer, and it's a really fulfilling feeling when you do stuff. You help out with the organizing, you help out with the creatives, and you see the fruits of your labor the next day, and you see the young people enjoying it. It's an amazing feeling. I really do enjoy it, and I really want to see Comic Con grow bigger and bigger. You know, we were constantly pushing each other, motivating each other, make sure that we got our rest as well as did things on time. So that was really good. That was teamwork at its best. The Geeks Against Harassment group was initially formed to provide moral support for the cosplayers who had to go through a bit of harassment, not a bit, actually quite a lot of harassment in 2017, because there are individuals out there who honestly get their kicks out of making fun of people who step forward and do things that, you know, that are not normally done. It's basically herd mentality. The group has grown, and what we aim to do is basically help people and support people and basically be there for them.
So like Lanka Comic Con is definitely like the best place to cosplay, especially if you're a girl, because you know that if anything happens, or if anybody tries to do something to you, or anybody says something to you online, they're always supportive and they'll always like fix the situation as best they can.
So like she said, it's not just for girls, because even for a guy, when you're coming into cosplay, if you have your chest open or like wearing a weird kind of a girly thing, it is not the most comfortable thing to do if the crowd is reacting badly. So Lanka Comic Con actually made the atmosphere very comfortable. If I can recall, the best moment was last year at Lanka Comic Con. There was a guy wearing a Princess Batman cosplay. There was no better example than to say everything is possible at Lanka Comic Con, and you are given the freedom and the safety and the comfort to cosplay any character that you like.
A big part of geekdom is movies. We're all movie enthusiasts and we love our movies very much. We've been very blessed to work with EAP Films and Theatres. They have really supported us, especially with movie premieres, pre-day screenings, and also given us Excel for the entire Excel cinema for all of our geeks to enjoy movies. I remember back in the first movie we watched was Deadpool, and even in Excel with 80 seats we had to sit on the aisles. That has been the culture of movies and movie fans enjoying movies together, and then, you know, watching the movie, coming out and arguing about the movie, some in favor, some against. That whole culture, you know, it's amazing. And apart from EAP, we also work with Scope. Scope also, along with TNL Radio, you know, invited us for quite a few events. I think Justice League was one of those.
I really enjoy going to the movie premieres with the Geek Club, because there is just something different when you go to a movie with a bunch, like a massive amount of like-minded people who all would appreciate that movie, you know, like you would. It's different from, you know, like just going to a cinema on a random day and just watch with just the usual crowd. But going with the Geek Club with people who know the movie, who really appreciate the movie, it makes the experience a lot better.
The experience has been so good, you know, to be able to enjoy the movies as geeks together. To watch it a few days before, that is something amazing. That is something very rare. And the highlight probably would be the Avengers Infinity War campaign that we did with EAP. EAP invited us to help them out and, you know, strategize and come up with something crazy. And so we had a very, very powerful campaign that started earlier this year. And, you know, we had various launch events. The big one was at Criscat, where all our cosplayers rolled in Audis right into Criscat, the lobby. You know, that was amazing. I never thought I would see something like that. And just to see the wonderment and the awe of people at Geeks enjoying themselves, expressing themselves, just goes to show that the movie industry in Sri Lanka, especially theatre owners, are ready to really engage with geeks and really ready to do something that is not normal for them.
So basically the evolution of Comic Con started with the Geek Club of Sri Lanka, where a friend of ours, Aman Ashraf, emailed a bunch of people he knew liked to do like to read comics, and was like, guys, since there are like at least 15 people who like to read comics, shouldn't we think about maybe doing a Comic Con sometime? And we did meet up, and Navin was the one who pointed out, Aman, like 15 people are not really enough to do a Comic Con with. We need to find out how many geeky people are actually in Sri Lanka to be able to even have a Comic Con. And that was when we started the Geek Club page, the GCSO page, which was supposed to be a page for us to collect like metrics on like were there actually any people, like was it like 50, 100, how many? And Dinuka started the page, and we had about 200, 300 people in a couple of months, and everybody was like spending a lot of time on that page talking to each other about geek stuff. And then very randomly, someone on this club said, like, guys, we spend so much time talking to each other online, why don't we meet up? So Navin, because he's been with his experience in Boston and stuff like that with doing gaming in the gaming community, he was like, that's cool, we should just do like a board game meetup. And we did that. And we've been having Geek Meets ever since, which was like, I think about 5 years ago, 5, 6 years, somewhere in 2012 or something like that we started. And after about after about 2 years of doing Geek Meets, we were like, okay, looks like we can actually now test out the Comic Con concept to see if it'll work. So we had a really teeny tiny Comic Con in 2015 at the BMICH, and that went a lot better than any of us expected. Like, we didn't think there'd be so many cosplayers, for one thing. There were amazing cosplayers even in the first year, and we just carried on doing Comic Con since then, and obviously trying to like add value every year on year so that it's a better experience for people. A lot of people ask us, look, why aren't we having like big names and big like people, like why aren't we having movie stars, why aren't we having all these people? One thing is it's really expensive, and the idea we had for Comic Con was that it should be something that is affordable for everyone. It shouldn't be like some elitist event for people who have money or people who only speak English. It should be something, because geeks come in all colors and like from all walks of life. So it should be something that's affordable. And if you try to like get down some big name, it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars, which makes the event immediately unaffordable for like a lot of people.
So the first main change from 2015 to 2018 is the scale. For example, 2015 started with like a month's preparation and was attended by maybe 1,000 people. We're not sure, we didn't have numbers. And then 2016, which was the very next year, it was completely independent and we had it ourselves. It was at a small gallery, which for us at the time was a huge gallery, but it didn't turn out to be that way because we were hit by about 3,000 people over 2 days. And there was a lot more preparation involved. It took a few months this time, and there was PR promotion, which was a new thing for me. Then there was, we had a couple of pre-events, we had a bus mob, which everybody went mad about. And then the scale doubled the following year because our initial location was way too small, and it was also hot, but that was a crowd problem. So then we ended up going to the SLECC, which was mammoth, really. And the event still happened, and it was still one of those events. It filled out that space. So, and now we're going to 2018, which is a different venue, and altogether different layout, but still of the same scale, and very promising in its own way because it's a whole new way of doing Comic Con.
Lanka Comic Con is different in that it's a celebration of Sri Lanka's geek culture. And that is why since last year we have been heavily focusing on a trilingual event. That is not just English but Sinhala and Tamil as well. That's why most of our content, our panels, our discussions are not just English but feature panelists from various parts of geekdom in the Sinhala and Tamil languages. And there's so much of geek potential in Sri Lanka. We've seen so many artists, we've seen filmmakers, we've seen various writers. They're all coming up, and this is a platform that allows them to express their creativity. Cosplay obviously is another very important part of Lanka Comic Con, and every year we've been seeing that the variations, the creativity and the hard work that's put into cosplay increases in an exponential manner year on year, so that every year we see even more exciting cosplay, and it's just an expression of creativity.
The other thing that I find that Comic Con seems to have achieved is that it's given a lot of geek vendors a platform from which they have like grown themselves, because we had like the first Comic Con just had a bunch of people randomly selling things with little tables, and by the second Comic Con some of them had graduated to, you know what, we are thinking of opening our own stores, so now we need to have a proper stall. And in like 2 years time you found that there were people like Red Dot Geek who's done amazing stuff for the comics community here. Red Dot Geek opened up a store. Collectic has a fantastic store like with really, really beautiful like original collectibles. And Yamato One is like doing human service for the anime and manga community. It's, I think, the only like place where they have all the anime and manga sort of stuff in one place. And Clinton and Tammy are geeks themselves, and they're completely committed to like doing events and things like that for the community. And so I think it's great because it's like a little incubator for small businesses where they can come there and get their sort of market base and get their clients and talk to people and basically like refine their model and grow. And I think that's been something which we didn't actually think about when we set up Comic Con, but it's something that's organically kind of happened with it.
So I've been going to Geek Meets for the past 5 years or so. Geek Meets are events hosted by the GCSL, and it's a place where geeks can meet each other and communicate. It's a nice homey event where the friends are like family, I would say.
Well, those, again, going back to my first meetup is where I really met some of the amazing friends that I have today. It really gave me the confidence to try new things actually, which I have never done in my life, and it helped me do stuff out of my comfort zone. So getting to know this stuff and doing new things helped me a lot throughout my career as well. And another plus point was like the contacts and the new friendships which I got to build up with this Comic Con was like really helpful, because those influenced me to do a lot of new stuff.
Just a word to the geeks, like, just keep doing what you're doing. Just don't let anyone's opinions stop you from being who you are. Just don't be another brick in the wall. Just be yourself. If you want to cosplay, cosplay. If you want to read comics, read comics. If you want to collect stuff, collect stuff. Just do what makes you happy. Like, that's the general rule in life.
The attendance at Comic Con is pretty amazing because it's all the geeks and all the cosplayers and like-minded folks, and it's a place where everyone gets together. And in time, of course, I can see the event growing more and reaching more heights in the future.
Any memorable moment which relates to Comic Con for me is to do with the people. It's not the guests we have. We've had like fantastic guests. We've had really great panels, but for me, it's all about the people, the volunteers, the friends we've made. Like right now, I would say 50% of my really like closest friends I've all met through Geek Club and Comic Con, and the people I regularly hang out with, and we just basically share our lives right now. So for me, that's kind of the most, it's not a memorable event, but for me, that's the best thing I got out of Comic Con.